Dear ladies and gentlemen, life is often viewed as a journey that requires others to complete it. We grow up with the notion that happiness is something we must find in others. But true contentment is not in the hands of others, it is within us. We are taught to look for external validation, yet the most profound source of joy comes when we look inward. So today I want to speak about the power of learning to be happy alone, for only when we embrace solitude can we truly experience life in its fullest form. Solitude is not loneliness, it is the presence of self. In today's world, we are conditioned to believe that being alone is synonymous with being lonely. Society often promotes the idea that happiness can only be found in the company of others, in social gatherings, and in the constant interaction with people. We are led to think that solitude is something to avoid, something to be feared. But in reality, solitude is the gateway to self-discovery and inner peace. It's not the absence of others that defines loneliness, but the absence of connection with oneself. When we are alone, we have the opportunity to be fully present with ourselves, to listen to our own thoughts, feelings, and desires without the distractions of the outside world. It's in these moments of solitude that we come to understand who we truly are, beyond the labels, roles, and expectations placed upon us by society, family, and friends. It is a space where we can shed the masks we wear to fit in, and we can embrace our authentic self with all its imperfections and strengths. Many people fear being alone because they have not learned to connect with themselves. We live in a fast-paced world where it is easy to be caught up in the hustle and bustle of daily life. We are constantly surrounded by noise, whether it's the chatter of people, the ringing of phones, or the endless flood of information from the media. In this constant state of external stimulation, we often forget to check in with ourselves. We forget to pause, breathe, and reflect. Yet when we choose to spend time in solitude, we create the opportunity to step away from the noise and distractions, to reconnect with the deepest parts of ourselves. In those quiet moments, we can reflect on our true desires, our values, and our purpose. It's in these moments that we find clarity, and it is in solitude that we gain the strength to align our actions with our innermost truths. Being alone doesn't mean we are abandoned or that we are lacking something. Rather, it is a chance to cultivate self-sufficiency and a deep sense of independence. We no longer need to rely on others for validation or fulfillment. Instead, we begin to realize that we have everything we need within us. When we learn to appreciate solitude, we no longer view it as a void to be filled, but as a space that nurtures growth and understanding. It is only in solitude that we can fully experience our own thoughts, our own heartbeats, our own breath. We come to realize that we are not defined by the company we keep, nor by the relationships we have, but by the strength of our own inner world. In solitude, we face ourselves in our purest form, and from this place we can build a life of true fulfillment. So let us not fear solitude. Let us learn to embrace it, for it is not a punishment or a void, but a profound opportunity to reconnect with our essence, to cultivate peace within ourselves, and to rediscover the joy that comes from simply being. Happiness comes from within. We often search for happiness in the external world, through relationships, achievements, possessions, or approval from others. We believe that if we have the right job, the perfect partner, or the admiration of others, we will feel complete, fulfilled, and at peace. But the truth is that happiness is not something that can be found in the external world. It is not a destination or a result of external circumstances. True happiness is a state of being that arises from within. At its core, happiness is an internal experience. It is a reflection of how we perceive the world, how we react to life's challenges, and how we connect with ourselves. External factors such as success, material possessions, or other people can bring temporary pleasure, but they cannot provide lasting happiness. This is why so many people, after reaching their goals or obtaining what they thought would make them happy, find themselves still feeling unfulfilled. They have not yet discovered the true source of happiness which lies within. The idea that happiness comes from within is not just a philosophical concept, but a practical truth that can transform our lives. When we realize that we have the power to choose how we respond to situations, we begin to understand that happiness is a choice. It is not something that happens to us, but something we create from within. This understanding shifts our perspective from being dependent on external circumstances to taking full responsibility for our emotional state. When we look for happiness outside ourselves, we place our well-being in the hands of others or in the outcomes of situations. If we are relying on someone else to make us happy, we are essentially giving away our power. We cannot control other people or how they behave, and we certainly cannot control the unpredictable nature of life. But what we can control is how we respond, how we think, and how we choose to perceive our experience. Happiness that comes from within is not fleeting or conditional. It does not depend on external validation or on the approval of others. It is rooted in self-acceptance and a deep sense of inner peace. When we cultivate an inner sense of contentment, we can face the challenges of life with equanimity, knowing that our happiness does not depend on what happens to us, but on how we choose to engage with the world. This kind of happiness is not about feeling constant joy or excitement. It is a more subtle, steady feeling of well-being and contentment that comes from living in alignment with our values and our true selves. It is the satisfaction of knowing that we are enough just as we are. When we embrace the idea that happiness comes from within, we stop searching for it outside of ourselves. We stop relying on others to fulfill our emotional needs and begin to nourish ourselves from within. One of the keys to unlocking this internal happiness is self-awareness. The more we understand ourselves, the more we know our strengths, our weaknesses, our desires, and our fears, the more we can tap into our inner resources. Self-awareness allows us to make choices that align with our values rather than being influenced by the expectations of others or the pressures of society. It is in this alignment that true happiness is found. Another important aspect of internal happiness is gratitude. When we cultivate a practice of gratitude, we shift our focus from what we lack to what we already have. This simple shift in perspective can bring a profound sense of peace and contentment. Gratitude helps us recognize that happiness is not about accumulating more, but about appreciating the present moment and all the blessings we already possess. When happiness comes from within, we no longer need to look to external sources for validation or fulfillment. We learn to be content in our own company, to find joy in the simple moments of life, and to create a sense of peace that is not dependent on the world around us. We understand that happiness is not a destination, but a state of being, a way of experiencing the world with a sense of openness, acceptance, and inner peace. The true power of this understanding is that it gives us the freedom to live life on our own terms. We are no longer tied to the whims of external circumstances or the approval of others. We become the creators of our own happiness, and with this power we can navigate life's ups and downs with grace, knowing that our happiness is not determined by anything outside ourselves. It is in an unwavering source that comes from the depth of our own being. Self-awareness is the key that unlocks the door to true fulfillment and lasting happiness. In a world that constantly demands our attention, it is easy to lose touch with ourselves. We are often so caught up in the external pressures of life, our jobs, relationships, societal expectations, that we forget to check in with the one person who is with us at all times. ourselves. Self-awareness, however, is the practice of becoming deeply attuned to who we are, understanding our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, and recognizing how we respond to the world around us. To be truly self-aware is to know yourself at the most profound level. It is not merely about understanding what you like or dislike, but about having an intimate connection with your inner world. Self-awareness means recognizing the patterns in your thoughts, your fears, your desires, and your reactions to different situations. It is about understanding why you think the way you do, why you feel certain emotions, and why you behave in the manner you do. It goes beyond surface-level knowledge and delves into the depths of your psyche, providing insight into the motivations that drive your actions and decisions. This level of awareness requires presence, the ability to observe yourself without judgment. It is an act of simply noticing what is happening within you without getting lost in the noise of your thoughts or emotions. Most of us go through life on autopilot, reacting to circumstances without truly understanding why we are responding in certain ways. Self-awareness pulls us out of this automatic mode and allows us to become conscious participants in our own lives. By practicing self-awareness, we begin to see the subtleties of our inner world, which were previously hidden beneath the surface. One of the most powerful aspects of self-awareness is its ability to reveal the beliefs that shape our lives. Much of our behavior is guided by unconscious beliefs and patterns that we have inherited from our upbringing, culture, and past experiences. These beliefs can limit us, causing us to make decisions that do not align with our true desires or value. By becoming self-aware, we gain the clarity needed to identify and challenge these limiting beliefs. We can ask ourselves, is this belief serving me? Is it helping me grow or holding me back? This process of inquiry helps us break free from the confines of outdated thought patterns and empowers us to choose beliefs that align with our authentic self. Self-awareness also helps us recognize our emotions and how they influence our actions. Emotions are a natural part of the human experience, but without awareness, they can often drive us to act impulsively or in ways that are not in our best interest. For example, when we experience anger, fear, or frustration, we may react in ways that harm ourselves or others. However, through self-awareness, we can observe these emotions as they arise and make a conscious choice about how to respond. Instead of being swept away by the tide of emotion, we become the calm observer, able to choose how we will engage with our feelings in a constructive way. Furthermore, self-awareness enables us to understand our values and priorities in life, what truly matters to us. What are the things that give us a sense of purpose and meaning? In our fast-paced world, it is easy to get caught up in the noise and distractions of daily life and lose sight of what is important. Self-awareness helps us reconnect with our values and allows us to make decisions that are in alignment with them. It gives us the strength to say no to things that drain our energy and yes to things that nurture our spirit. When we are aligned with our values, we experience a deeper sense of fulfillment because we are living authentically rather than simply reacting to external circumstances. Additionally, being self-aware allows us to develop a sense of compassion and acceptance towards ourselves. Many of us are our own harshest critics, constantly judging ourselves for our perceived flaws or mistakes. Self-awareness encourages us to observe ourselves with kindness, understanding, and patience. Instead of criticizing ourselves, we learn to acknowledge our shortcomings with a sense of compassion, recognizing that we are all human and that growth is a lifelong journey. This self-compassion creates a sense of inner peace as we no longer feel the need to be perfect or constantly prove our worth. We come to accept ourselves as we are, with all of our imperfections. And this acceptance is the foundation for true self-love. The practice of self-awareness also helps us cultivate emotional intelligence. The ability to understand and manage our emotions, as well as the emotions of others. By becoming aware of our own emotional states, we can develop greater empathy and connection with others. We are able to respond to others with more understanding, patience, and compassion, rather than reacting from a place of defensiveness or judgment. Emotional intelligence strengthens our relationships, enhances our communication skills, and helps us navigate the complexities of human interaction with grace and wisdom. Finally, self-awareness is the key to personal growth and transformation. When we are aware of our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, we can identify areas of our lives that are not serving us and take steps to improve them. We become empowered to make conscious choices that lead to positive change, whether it is letting go of unhealthy habits, adopting new mindsets, or pursuing new goals. Self-awareness provides the clarity and insight needed to create meaningful transformation in our lives. In essence, self-awareness is the foundation for living a conscious, intentional life. It is the tool that allows us to break free from automatic patterns and create a life that is truly in alignment with who we are. By becoming deeply attuned to ourselves, we not only unlock the potential for personal growth, but we also open the door to greater happiness, peace, and fulfillment. Learning to enjoy your own company is a fundamental skill that many people struggle to develop. In a world that emphasizes social connection and external validation, the idea of spending time alone is often met with discomfort or anxiety. For many, being alone feels like a void to be filled, a silence to be overcome. Yet, the ability to truly enjoy your own company is one of the most liberating and empowering experiences you can cultivate. It allows you to discover the richness of your own inner world and find joy in moments of solitude without needing anyone else to define your happiness. The first step in learning to enjoy your own company is changing the way we perceive solitude. Instead of seeing it as an absence of people or activity, we can view it as an opportunity, a chance to reconnect with ourselves, to engage with our thoughts, and to explore the depth of our inner landscape. Solitude, when embraced, becomes a space for reflection, creativity, and personal growth. It is in these moments of quiet that we often make our most profound discoveries, not just about the world around us, but about who we are at our core. To enjoy your own company, you must first learn to be at peace with yourself. This means letting go of the need for constant distraction. In today's fast-paced world, it is easy to seek out noise, whether it's through social media, television, or even constant interaction with others. We fill our days with activities that keep us busy, but often leave us disconnected from ourselves. Learning to enjoy your own company requires the ability to sit with silence and to be comfortable with stillness. This is not always easy, as it can bring up uncomfortable emotions or thoughts. But it is in sitting with those feelings, rather than avoiding them, that we begin to truly understand ourselves and create a deeper sense of peace. There is a beauty in solitude that can only be found when we allow ourselves the space to experience it fully. When we are constantly surrounded by people or distractions, we may overlook the simple pleasures of life. Being alone allows us to slow down, to be more present, and to appreciate the small moments that often go unnoticed. Whether it's savoring a cup of coffee in the morning, listening to the sound of birds outside, or taking a leisurely walk in nature, these moments become more meaningful when we are alone because we are fully engaged with the experience. We can start to appreciate the richness of the world around us without the need for external stimulation. Moreover, spending time alone helps us reconnect with our passions and interests. In the busyness of daily life, it's easy to lose sight of the things that bring us joy or fulfillment. We may spend so much time taking care of others or meeting external demands that we forget about the activities or hobbies that light us up. When we are alone, we have the freedom to explore these interests without distraction or interruption. Whether it's painting, writing, reading, gardening, or any other creative pursuit, these activities allow us to express ourselves authentically and connect with a deeper sense of purpose. Another important aspect of enjoying your own company is learning to be kind and compassionate with yourself. Often we are our own harshest critics, constantly evaluating ourselves and our worth based on external standards. When we are alone, these critical voices can become louder, making it difficult to find peace. To enjoy your own company, you must practice self-compassion, accepting yourself as you are, flaws and all. This means treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer to a friend. It's about embracing your imperfections, forgiving yourself for past mistakes, and learning to love yourself unconditionally. In solitude, we also have the opportunity to listen to our inner voice, our intuition. In the noise and busyness of life, it's easy to ignore or drown out our inner wisdom. But when we are alone, we create the space for that quiet voice to emerge. This inner guidance can help us make decisions that align with our true desires and values. It provides us with the clarity and direction we need to move forward with confidence and purpose. Learning to trust this inner voice is an essential part of enjoying our own company, as it allows us to live more authentically and in alignment with who we are. Spending time alone also gives us the chance to develop resilience. Life is filled with challenges, and while we may seek comfort and support from others during difficult times, learning to rely on ourselves for strength is a powerful skill. When we are alone, we face our challenges head on and learn to navigate them with grace. We build emotional endurance, learning how to cope with feelings of discomfort or sadness without depending on others to fix us. This self-reliance not only helps us grow as individuals, but also deepens our sense of inner peace. As we learn to enjoy our own company, we begin to realize that we are not defined by our relationships with others, but by our relationship with ourselves. We are enough just as we are. This realization frees us from the need for constant external validation and allows us to cultivate a sense of self-worth that is not dependent on the approval of others. When we enjoy our own company, we no longer seek out relationships or social interactions simply to fill a void. Instead, we enter into connections with others from a place of wholeness, knowing that we are complete within ourselves. Learning to enjoy your own company also fosters a sense of independence and autonomy. In relationships and friendships, it is natural to seek connection and companionship, but when we become comfortable being alone, we develop a greater sense of freedom. We no longer feel bound by the expectations of others or the pressure to always be in social situations. This independence allows us to make choices based on what truly brings us joy, rather than what others expect from us. It also gives us the freedom to explore new paths in life, to take risks, and to pursue our passions without fear of judgment or rejection. Finally, learning to enjoy your own company is a form of self-care. It is about prioritizing your own well-being and nurturing your mental, emotional, and physical health. In solitude, we can practice mindfulness, engage in activities that nourish our souls, and take the time to relax and recharge. When we learn to enjoy our own company, we are better equipped to show up as our best selves in all areas of life, from our relationships to our work and personal endeavors. In essence, learning to enjoy your own company is a practice that can transform your life. It allows you to reconnect with your true self, to find peace and contentment within, and to cultivate a sense of fulfillment that is not dependent on anyone else. It is through this journey of self-discovery that we come to realize that the greatest source of joy lies not in the company of others, but in the company of ourselves. Embracing freedom is one of the most profound aspects of learning to be happy alone, yet it is also one of the most misunderstood concepts in modern life. We often associate freedom with external circumstances, having the ability to travel, the financial resources to do what we want, and the freedom to make our own decisions without interference. However, the true essence of freedom lies not in external conditions, but in the freedom we find within ourselves. It is the ability to live life on our own terms, independent of the expectations, judgments, and influences of others. It is the freedom to be who we truly are, without needing to conform to society's standards or to seek approval from others. When we learn to be happy alone, we tap into a deep reservoir of internal freedom. We no longer feel the need to seek validation from others or to measure our worth based on the opinions and expectations of society. In a world where we are constantly bombarded with external pressures, whether through social media, peer comparisons, or the expectations placed upon us by family, friends, or colleagues, the ability to free ourselves from these external influences is truly liberating. The moment we realize that our worth does not depend on the approval or recognition of others, we experience a profound shift. It is as if a weight is lifted and we are free to live authentically, expressing ourselves without fear of judgment or rejection. This freedom, however, is not about escaping from responsibility or abandoning relationships. It is about realizing that true freedom comes from within. It is the freedom to make choices based on our values and desires rather than on external pressures. When we are free from the need to please others or meet their expectations, we can make decisions that truly align with our own needs and aspirations. We can pursue our passions, set our own goals, and create a life that is a reflection of who we truly are, rather than a life that is dictated by the needs or desires of others. Living in this state of internal freedom means shedding the weight of societal norms and expectations that often lead to stress, anxiety, and dissatisfaction. We live in a culture that constantly tells us what we should be, how we should behave, and what success looks like. From the moment we are born, we are conditioned to fit into predefined roles, and many of us spend our lives striving to meet these expectations. But true freedom comes when we step away from these prescribed roles and embrace our uniqueness. It comes when we stop measuring our worth by external standards and begin to recognize the intrinsic value that lies within us. To embrace freedom fully, we must also learn to let go of the fear of being alone or isolated. Many people fear solitude because they believe it will lead to loneliness, rejection, or abandonment. They may fear that being alone means they are unimportant or unloved. However, true freedom requires us to confront and release these fears. When we are free from the need for constant companionship or social validation, we become independent in the truest sense. We are no longer at the mercy of our need for others to fulfill us or to give us a sense of worth. Instead, we find that we are enough as we are. And in this realization, we are free to live authentically and unapologetically. Freedom also means allowing ourselves the space to explore and pursue what truly excites and fulfills us without the need for external approval or permission. Society often places limits on what we can or should do, and many of us conform to these limits out of fear, convenience, or desire to fit in. But true freedom is found when we break free from these limitations. It is the freedom to take risks, to make mistakes, to try new things, and to pursue the path that resonates with our deepest desires, even if it goes against the grain. It is the freedom to follow our own inner compass, regardless of what others may think or expect of us. In relationships, embracing freedom means letting go of the idea that we need others to complete us. For many, the belief that happiness and fulfillment can only be found in the company of others is deeply ingrained. We often seek out relationships because we feel that we are incomplete or lacking in some way. However, when we learn to be happy alone, we realize that we are already whole. We are not defined by our relationships, and we do not need others to validate our worth. Instead, we enter into relationships from a place of abundance, knowing that we are already complete and that any connection we form is an extension of our own personal growth and well-being. This freedom from dependency allows us to build healthier, more balanced relationships. We no longer need to rely on others for emotional support or validation, but instead, we can offer our love and companionship from a place of strength and independence. In this way, we become more capable of forming genuine connections with others based on mutual respect and shared values rather than on the need to fill an emotional void. Embracing freedom also means learning to trust ourselves. It requires letting go of self-doubt and the fear of making mistakes. When we are free from the need for approval or perfection, we are able to make decisions with confidence, knowing that we are capable of handling whatever comes our way. This trust in ourselves empowers us to take ownership of our lives, to pursue our dreams, and to face challenges with resilience. We stop second-guessing ourselves and instead take inspired action, guided by our inner wisdom and intuition. One of the most powerful aspects of internal freedom is that it allows us to live in the present moment. When we are free from the chains of the past, our regrets, our mistakes, and our unresolved emotions, and the fear of the future, we are able to fully experience the richness of the present. We are not weighed down by what has happened or by what might happen. Instead, we engage with life as it unfolds with an open heart and a clear mind. This freedom from past and future worries enables us to enjoy the simple pleasures of life and to find peace in the here and now. Finally, embracing freedom means having the courage to live authentically. It is the courage to be true to ourselves, to speak our truth, and to act in accordance with our deepest values and beliefs. When we are free from the need to conform, we find that we are able to live with integrity, making choices that align with who we really are, rather than trying to meet the expectations of others. This authenticity brings a sense of peace and satisfaction that cannot be found in the pursuit of external approval or success. In the end, the freedom that comes from being happy alone is not about isolation or independence in the traditional sense. It is about living in harmony with ourselves, free from the change of external expectations, judgments, and the need for validation. It is about reclaiming our power, trusting ourselves, and living life on our own terms with joy, confidence, and peace. The process of cultivating self-love is one of the most transformative journeys that an individual can undertake. It is also one of the most misunderstood aspects of human existence. In a world that often focuses on external achievements, appearances, and the validation we receive from others, it is easy to forget that the most important relationship we have is the one we have with ourselves. Self-love is not simply a fleeting feeling or a passing emotion. It is a profound, unwavering acceptance of who we are. Flaws, mistakes, imperfections, and all. It is a deep, nurturing sense of care and compassion that we give to ourselves, no matter the circumstances or external judgments. Learning to love ourselves is not only a powerful act of self-care, but it is also the foundation upon which everything else in our lives is built. At its core, self-love is about treating yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and respect that you would offer to someone you deeply care about. It is the practice of acknowledging your own worth, regardless of any external circumstances or achievements. So often, we are conditioned to believe that our value is determined by how we compare to others or how we meet certain societal standards. We may think that in order to be worthy of love and happiness, we must achieve a certain level of success, appearance, or approval from those around us. However, true self-love goes beyond these superficial measures. It is the recognition that we are inherently valuable simply because we exist. Our worth is not based on our achievements or on how others perceive us. It is intrinsic and unshakable. To cultivate self-love, the first step is to practice self-acceptance. This means acknowledging and embracing who you are with all of your strengths, weaknesses, quirks, and imperfections. Self-love does not require us to be perfect or flawless. In fact, it is in our imperfections that our true beauty lies. Self-acceptance means releasing the need for approval or validation from others and embracing the idea that we are enough just as we are. When we can truly accept ourselves, we stop striving to meet unrealistic standards and begin to focus on the things that truly matter to us. We give ourselves permission to be imperfect and to make mistakes along the way. These mistakes are not failures. They are simply opportunities for growth, learning, and self-compassion. Self-love also involves learning to forgive ourselves. We are all human and we all make mistakes, sometimes even repeating them. Often we hold on to guilt, shame, and regret, thinking that these emotions will somehow motivate us to be better or to avoid repeating the same mistakes. However, this approach only serves to keep us trapped in the past, preventing us from moving forward and growing. Self-forgiveness is the act of releasing these burdens and allowing ourselves the grace to learn from our experiences without judgment. When we forgive ourselves, we free ourselves from the shackles of self-blame and open up space for healing, growth, and self-compassion. Another essential aspect of self-love is setting healthy boundaries. So often we give of ourselves to others at the expense of our own well-being. We may feel obligated to please others, to say yes when we really want to say no, or to overextend ourselves in order to gain approval or avoid conflict. However, true self-love requires us to set boundaries that protect our energy, time, and emotional health. Setting boundaries is not selfish, it is an act of self-respect and self-care. It means recognizing that we are worthy of taking up space in this world, that our needs are just as important as the needs of others, and that we have the right to prioritize our own well-being. By setting clear and healthy boundaries, we teach others how to treat us and create a space where we can nurture and protect ourselves. Self-love also means taking care of our physical, mental, and emotional health. It is the practice of nourishing ourselves with good food, exercise, and rest, while also tending to our emotional needs. This might include taking time for relaxation, practicing mindfulness, engaging in creative outlets, or seeking support when needed. When we love ourselves, we treat our bodies with kindness and respect, understanding that they are the vessels that carry us through life. We engage in practices that help us feel balanced, energized, and at peace. We recognize that taking care of ourselves is not a luxury, but a necessity. It is only when we nurture our own well-being that we can show up as the best version of ourselves in all areas of life. Furthermore, self-love involves practicing self-compassion. Many of us are incredibly hard on ourselves, constantly criticizing ourselves for our perceived flaws or mistakes. We may struggle with feelings of inadequacy or unworthiness, believing that we are not good enough or that we do not deserve happiness. Self-compassion is the antidote to these negative thoughts and beliefs. It is the practice of treating ourselves with the same care and understanding that we would offer to a close friend who is struggling. Instead of harshly judging ourselves, we learn to be gentle with our thoughts and emotions, recognizing that we are all imperfect and that it is okay to be vulnerable, to stumble, and to ask for help when needed. In addition to self-compassion, self-love involves the cultivation of a positive mindset. This is not about being unrealistic or ignoring the challenges we face, but rather about shifting our focus from what is lacking to what is abundant. It is the ability to see the silver lining in difficult situations, to recognize our own strengths and potential, and to believe that we are capable of overcoming obstacles and creating the life we desire. A positive mindset is a powerful tool for self-love because it helps us to stay hopeful, resilient, and motivated, even in the face of adversity. When we focus on the possibilities rather than the limitations, we open ourselves up to new opportunities for growth and transformation. Self-love also involves the practice of self-reflection. Taking time to regularly reflect on our thoughts, actions, and experiences allows us to gain insight into our behavior and motivation. It is a way of checking in with ourselves to ensure that we are living in alignment with our values and goals. Through self-reflection, we can identify areas of our lives that need attention or improvement, and we can also celebrate the progress we have made. This process of reflection helps us to stay connected to our inner truth and to course correct when needed. It is a key practice for maintaining a loving and compassionate relationship with ourselves. Another critical component of self-love is learning to trust ourselves. Trusting yourself means believing in your ability to make decisions that are in your best interest and knowing that you have the strength to navigate life's challenges. It requires letting go of self-doubt and replacing it with confidence in your own judgment and intuition. When we trust ourselves, we stop second-guessing every decision and start making choices that are aligned with our values and desires. This trust is empowering as it allows us to take action without fear of failure or regret. It fosters a sense of inner peace, knowing that we are capable of handling whatever comes our way. Lastly, self-love means embracing our uniqueness. It is about letting go of the need to compare ourselves to others and recognizing that our individuality is something to be celebrated, not suppressed. We are all different, with our own strengths, quirks, and characteristics. True self-love comes when we fully embrace these differences and recognize that they are what make us special. Instead of trying to fit into a mold or conform to societal expectations, we can confidently express our true selves, knowing that our authenticity is our greatest asset. In essence, cultivating self-love is the most powerful gift we can give ourselves. It is not a destination, but a lifelong practice, one that requires patience, compassion, and commitment. When we love ourselves, we create a solid foundation for living a fulfilling, joyful, and meaningful life. Self-love allows us to navigate life's challenges with grace, to build deeper and more authentic relationships, and to make choices that are in alignment with our highest potential. Through the practice of self-love, we unlock the power to become the best version of ourselves and to live a life that is rich with purpose, peace, and happiness. The importance of creating a life that is centered around our passions cannot be overstated. Passion is not just an abstract concept or a fleeting excitement. It is the very fuel that drives us forward, providing energy, purpose, and a deep sense of fulfillment in life. When we connect with what truly excites and inspires us, we begin to create a life that feels meaningful, rewarding, and authentic. However, in the hustle and bustle of modern living, it is all too easy to lose sight of our passions. We often get caught up in the daily grind, focusing on responsibilities, obligations, and external expectations, while neglecting the inner desires that make us feel truly alive. Learning to create a life based on passion is not only transformative, but is also an essential part of living a balanced and satisfying existence. The first step in creating a life centered around your passions is to identify what truly excites you, what makes you feel alive, joyful, and connected to something greater than yourself. This process often involves quiet reflection and introspection. It requires taking the time to ask yourself the essential question, what brings me joy? The answer may not be immediately clear, as we often get so caught up in the demands of daily life that we forget to explore what lights us up. However, by creating space for introspection, we can begin to tune into our inner desires. This may involve revisiting childhood interests, exploring new hobbies, or simply paying attention to the moments when we feel truly energized and passionate. Once we have identified our passions, the next step is to create the conditions in our lives that allow us to nurture and pursue them. This often requires making conscious choices to prioritize our passions, even in the face of external pressures. In a society that often values productivity and achievement above all else, we may feel guilty or selfish for taking time to focus on what excites us. However, it is important to recognize that when we neglect our passions, we are not only denying ourselves joy, but also reducing our ability to contribute to the world around us. A life without passion is one that lacks vitality and meaning. By making room for our passions, we enhance our well-being, creativity, and sense of purpose, which ultimately benefits both ourselves and those around us. Creating a passion-driven life also involves letting go of the fear of judgment and failure. Many of us hesitate to pursue our passions because we fear that others will not understand or approve of our choices. We may worry that our interests are not practical or useful in a traditional sense, or that we are not skilled enough to succeed. These fears can be paralyzing, causing us to second-guess ourselves and put off pursuing our dreams. However, living a passionate life requires us to move beyond these limiting beliefs and embrace the idea that our passions are valuable, regardless of external validation. The act of following what excites us is in itself a form of success. Even if our passions do not lead to fame, wealth, or recognition, they can bring immense personal fulfillment and contribute to our overall sense of well-being. Passion also brings a sense of alignment and flow into our lives. When we engage in activities that we are truly passionate about, we enter a state of flow where time seems to disappear and we are completely absorbed in the present moment. This sense of flow is not only a source of deep satisfaction, but also contributes to our creativity and problem-solving abilities. It allows us to connect more deeply with ourselves and with the world around us. Whether it's painting, writing, music, gardening, or any other form of creative expression, the act of immersing ourselves in our passions taps into a wellspring of inspiration that can lead to greater self-discovery and growth. Moreover, creating a life centered around passion often involves overcoming obstacles and challenges that stand in the way of our desires. Pursuing what excites us is rarely a smooth or easy path. There may be setbacks, detours, and moments of doubt. But it is in the face of these challenges that we develop resilience and perseverance. When we are truly passionate about something, we are willing to put in the hard work, the time, and the effort necessary to see it through. Passion provides the motivation and inner strength to keep going, even when the road is difficult. It teaches us that success is not always about instant results, but about the journey, the growth, and the lessons learned along the way. Furthermore, passion gives us a sense of purpose. Many people go through life feeling disconnected or unfulfilled because they lack a clear sense of purpose. Without something that excites and inspires them, life can feel aimless, routine, and lacking in direction. When we align our lives with our passions, we are guided by a deeper sense of meaning. Passion provides us with the clarity to make decisions that reflect our values and goals, and it motivates us to take actions that bring us closer to our vision of the future. A life lived with purpose is one that is rich in meaning, satisfaction, and personal fulfillment. Passion also has the power to inspire others. When we pursue what excites us, we radiate energy and enthusiasm that can be contagious. People around us begin to notice our authenticity and passion, and they may be inspired to pursue their own dreams. Passion is a force that creates connection and unity, bringing people together around shared interests and values. It fosters a sense of community and belonging where individuals can support and encourage each other in their pursuits. By living a life of passion, we not only elevate ourselves, but also uplift others, creating a ripple effect of positivity and inspiration. Another important aspect of creating a passion-driven life is the idea of living in alignment with your values. Our passions are often deeply connected to our core values, the principles that guide us and shape our decisions. When we pursue what excites us, we are often engaging in activities that reflect our deepest beliefs and desires. This alignment between passion and values creates a harmonious life where we feel a sense of coherence and integrity. We are no longer torn between what we think we should do and what we truly want to do. Instead, our actions, choices, and goals are fully aligned with who we are at our core. This sense of alignment brings a deep sense of inner peace and satisfaction, as we feel that we are living authentically and in accordance with our true nature. Furthermore, engaging with our passions allows us to break free from the constraints of external expectations. Society often tells us what we should pursue, what careers we should have, and what goals we should strive for. These societal pressures can lead to a life of conformity, where we follow a prescribed path without ever questioning whether it aligns with our true desires. By choosing to pursue our passions, we step off the beaten path and create a life that is uniquely our own. We free ourselves from the limitations imposed by society's expectations and make space for a more fulfilling and authentic existence. A life based on passion also encourages continuous learning and personal growth. When we engage with something that excites us, we naturally seek to improve our skills, knowledge, and understanding in that area. Passion drives us to explore new ideas, experiment with new approaches, and challenge ourselves in ways that lead to growth and self-improvement. Whether it's learning a new language, mastering an instrument, or delving into a creative pursuit, our passions push us to step outside of our comfort zones and expand our horizons. This constant pursuit of growth keeps us engaged and motivated, preventing stagnation and helping us evolve into the best version of ourselves. Finally, the pursuit of passion enriches the overall quality of life. When we are passionate about something, life feels more vibrant, exciting, and full of passion. Infuses every moment with energy and purpose, making even mundane tasks feel meaningful. It provides us with something to look forward to, a sense of excitement and joy that colors our entire experience. When we live in alignment with our passions, life becomes more than just a series of obligations. It becomes a beautiful journey of exploration, expression, and fulfillment. The ability to embrace and conquer fear is an essential skill in learning to be happy alone and living a fulfilled life. Fear, in its many forms, is an inherent part of the human experience. It arises naturally as a response to uncertainty, vulnerability, and potential harm. However, despite its protective nature, fear can often become a barrier to growth, self-discovery, and the pursuit of our true desires. It can keep us trapped in patterns of inaction, self-doubt, and procrastination. When we are constantly held back by fear, we are unable to fully engage with life and experience the richness it has to offer. Overcoming fear, then, is not just about eliminating it, but rather learning how to navigate and transform it into a force that works in our favor. At its core, fear is a reaction to the unknown. It is rooted in our biology, an evolutionary mechanism that helps us avoid danger and survive. However, in modern life, fear is often triggered not by immediate threats, but by perceived threats. Thoughts of failure, judgment, or rejection. These fears are often exaggerated, and their impact is much greater than the actual consequences. Learning to recognize the difference between real danger and imagined danger is the first step in conquering fear. Often the things we fear the most are not as catastrophic as we believe them to be. By questioning our fears and examining their origins, we can begin to break them down and reduce their power over us. One of the most powerful ways to overcome fear is to reframe it as an opportunity for growth. Fear often arises when we are faced with challenges, new experiences, or unfamiliar territory. It is in these moments of uncertainty that fear tends to show up the most, urging us to retreat to what is comfortable and known. However, it is precisely in these moments of discomfort that growth occurs. Each time we face our fear and step into the unknown, we expand our capacity to handle future challenges. Rather than seeing fear as something to be avoided, we can start to see it as a sign that we are on the verge of personal transformation. When we embrace fear as a signal of growth, it no longer holds the same power over us. Instead, it becomes a motivator that pushes us to take action, to try new things, and to venture beyond our comfort zones. One of the most effective ways to conquer fear is through small, consistent action. Often fear feels overwhelming because we imagine the worst-case scenario and the long road ahead. However, when we break down our fears into manageable steps, they become less intimidating. By taking small, deliberate actions toward our goals, we gradually desensitize ourselves to the fear and increase our confidence. Each small success reinforces our belief in our ability to overcome fear, and the process of taking action builds momentum. With each step forward, we build our resilience and demonstrate to ourselves that fear does not have the power to control us. Another key aspect of overcoming fear is developing a mindset of self-compassion. Fear often thrives on self-criticism and the belief that we are not capable of handling challenges. When we face fear, we tend to judge ourselves harshly for our hesitation, our doubts, or our perceived inadequacies. However, the more we criticize ourselves, the more fear will take root. Self-compassion allows us to approach fear with kindness and understanding rather than judgment. It involves acknowledging that fear is a natural part of the human experience and that it is okay to feel afraid. Rather than berating ourselves for being fearful, we can gently remind ourselves that it is okay to take things at our own pace and that we are doing our best. This compassionate approach softens the grip of fear and allows us to take action without the added burden of self-criticism. It is also important to recognize that fear is often rooted in a lack of trust in ourselves, in our abilities, or in the process of life itself. When we are afraid, we often doubt whether we are capable of handling the challenges ahead. However, building self-trust is one of the most effective ways to overcome fear. Self-trust is the belief that we have the strength, resilience, and resources to navigate whatever life throws our way. It is the understanding that even if things do not go according to plan, we will find a way to cope, learn, and move forward. Trusting ourselves means recognizing that we have faced challenges before and emerged stronger, and that we have the capacity to handle whatever is in front of us. The more we trust ourselves, the less fear will dominate our lives. Additionally, fear often thrives in isolation. When we are alone with our thoughts, fear can magnify, spiraling out of control and feeding on our insecurities. One of the most powerful ways to counteract this is by seeking support from others. Fear thrives in silence and secrecy, but when we share our fears with trusted friends, family, or mentors, we gain perspective and reassurance. Talking about our fears can help us see them in a more rational light, and the support of others provides us with the courage to take the next step. It is important to remember that we do not have to face our fears alone. By leaning on the wisdom and encouragement of others, we gain strength and clarity in overcoming the obstacles in our path. Fear is also often tied to our attachment to outcomes. We fear failure because we are attached to a particular result or expectation. When things do not go as planned, we interpret it as a reflection of our inadequacy or unworthiness. However, detaching ourselves from specific outcomes and embracing the process of growth and learning can alleviate much of the fear associated with failure. By focusing on the journey rather than the destination, we reduce the pressure we place on ourselves and allow ourselves to take risks without the weight of perfectionism. This shift in perspective transforms fear into a natural part of the learning process rather than an obstacle to success. Mindfulness and meditation are also powerful tools for managing fear. These practices help us become more aware of our thoughts and emotions, allowing us to observe fear without being consumed by it. Through mindfulness, we can learn to create distance between ourselves and our fearful thoughts, recognizing them as temporary and not necessarily reflective of reality. Meditation allows us to calm the mind and reduce the physiological effects of fear, such as rapid heartbeat or shallow breathing. By incorporating these practices into our daily lives, we can cultivate a greater sense of inner peace and equanimity, making it easier to face fear head-on without becoming overwhelmed by it. Finally, it is essential to recognize that fear is often a signal for change and transformation. Rather than seeing fear as something to be avoided or suppressed, we can view it as a powerful indicator that we are on the verge of something new. Fear often arises when we step outside of our comfort zone or when we challenge the status quo. It is a sign that we are growing, expanding, and evolving. By embracing fear as a necessary part of personal development, we begin to see it as a tool for progress rather than a barrier to success. With this mindset, we can approach fear with curiosity and excitement, knowing that it is leading us toward new opportunities and experiences. In conclusion, learning to conquer fear is not about eliminating it entirely, but about developing the courage, resilience, and self-awareness to face it with confidence. Fear will always be a part of the human experience, but it does not have to control us. By shifting our mindset, taking small actions, practicing self-compassion, and seeking support, we can transform fear into a catalyst for growth, creativity, and personal transformation. When we learn to embrace fear rather than avoid it, we unlock the full potential of our lives and open the door to new possibilities and experiences. Fear becomes a powerful ally on our journey of self-discovery and empowerment.